early. What's up, folks? We're about to hop on. Give me like 5 minutes to get some things straight as far as my technical difficulties, and then get the slideshow up for you guys. Give me 5 minutes. I'll be right there. Thank you. What's up, fam? We are back for, I think, episode number 7 tonight. I'm excited about this one. Took some time off. Had to get my head back on the swivel real quick. Had a lot going on. Being pulled in a lot of different ways, a lot of good ways. So actually a blessing. It happened so fast. I just had to figure out how to I had to take my own advice and learn how to sit back and take a breath for a second. And tonight we got a dope episode coming for you guys tonight. The the headline is kind of like thought provoking, or it makes you, it's triggering for some people, right? So I did it on purpose, and it's not saying in a space that, God ain't enough. Sometimes it just feel like he ain't enough, right? And it's a reason for that. I was trying to get my slides together for tonight, but I couldn't. So I just go ahead and read off to you guys what I got. Hopefully by the next show, I'll figure the slide thing out so I can get some information for you guys to see, so it kind of sticks with you and a little bit more impactful. But y'all know I like to start off with a poem or some deaf poetry or a song or something like that. So I got another poem for you guys to kick you off called Healing. When we get back, I'll go ahead and get into the show details a little bit and talk about some things that's going on. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go. All right. Y'all know I'm slow with this stuff. Give me a moment. What's up, Ella? How you feeling? I see you got it together over there. I'm trying to get myself together over here now. And I think I got it. Here we go.
It was ironic how much love I gave out because I didn't give much to myself. She laughed, like self-love was a sick joke. I chuckled and cried at home. I had someone tell me once I could not love anyone else until I learned to love myself. This time I got to laugh. This time the sick joke was mine. It was me. Might as well wait forever. I remember hating myself at the age of 7. Journals filled to the brim with criticisms by 8. I had enough pages to stitch them into wings, to fly close enough to the sun to see my tears turn to steam, felt the wax burn on my shoulders and mold into thick skin. I was 9 when I wanted to die. 13 when I found a solution, figured if I could cut my legs enough, gravity would let me go. When it didn't, I tied a pillowcase around my neck, twisting like the rope swings I knew so well from childhood, heard my heartbeat pound in my ears like a warning drum, then fade. I'd almost convinced myself I'd done it. When I started writing, I smeared my blood on every page to remind myself that everything beautiful has a consequence. I'd hoped to stall the clouding long enough to give myself to the craft and let myself go. I have died so many times. So when I told you that loving you almost makes life worth it, I was not joking. When I tell you that loving you almost makes me forget how much I hate myself, it is not poetry. Loving you is taking all the love I could never give myself and putting it to good use. It is reminding myself that if someone can love a dying thing this way, can hold the Lazarus of my body and give thanks for the way it holds back, if someone can kiss the scars, administer the pills, absorb the bad days, and wake up smiling next to me, then I can try to breathe again. Because self-love does not always come first, or second, or even ever. But your love be the guardrail on the ledge, be the drawers that hide all the sharp things, be the body that carries my collapsed frame into bed, be the flowers you bought. Because even though they are dying too, they still dance. Love will not heal me, will not wipe my slate of a body clean. I will always be a woman of wounds, of rope-marked neck and melted skin. Love will not heal me, but it will hold my hand if I ever heal myself, and maybe teach me a joke that I can stay alive long enough to laugh at. I love you enough to want to love myself too.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
All right.
No, I can't hear you yet. I got you on mute. I'm sorry. 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. Let's see. Going back to StreamYard. There we go. Hold that for a second. Yeah, man. So welcome tonight to tonight's episode. But God wasn't enough, man. And like I said, that title was supposed to be eye-catching anyway and attention-grabbing because it has some truth in it too, right? Because there are some times where we feel like God isn't enough, and a lot of people may not admit to that, but like dealing with mental illness, man, like, bro, it's a lot of different factors that God had nothing to do with, and He can kind of provide a way for you to get better if you kind of stick to the task, but ultimately you got to do that work. And with mental illness makes you feel like, man, you don't have the strength to get that stuff done at all, to do anything. You can't even wash your own ass half the time. So it's in a space where you really got to challenge yourself, and that's again, that's why I brought this platform to life, because I want to talk about mental illness from all perspectives, in a way, and show and enlighten really what it is. And the only way you can really combat it or be successful with treating it in most cases, unless it's a physiological issue, a natural physiological issue, then the work is up to you. And so let me get into this video. I'm gonna bring my guest up, Ella Williams. It's been my homie for a few years. It's like my sister from another mother, my OG Hope. Alex, I hope I said what up. I got one more video for y'all, man, and I'm gonna go ahead and hop into this interview with Ella. I'm gonna bring her on, let her introduce herself. We can dive into the conversation. Thank y'all for being so patient tonight. It's been a rough week and a half, but not alone a rough night. So here we go. Find another one. There we go.
Brain is the powerhouse that controls every action and reaction in your body. Our ability to live our lives depends largely on whether it is able to operate at full capacity. So when the machine malfunctions, the fastest way to find out what's wrong is to look under the hood. Certain parts of the brain affect mental health. One of them is the amygdala. It regulates emotions such as anger, pleasure, and fear. It's what triggers your fight or flight response. The hippocampus is the memory bank. It stores and records facts and events throughout your life. Together, these two work to translate how we react to and express our emotions. The amygdala bookmarks specific events that trigger strong emotions, and the hippocampus keeps them as long-term memories. It's why you vividly remember the anxiety of your first day in kindergarten, or the joy of getting your first ever pet. Studies have found that these two parts were smaller in people with depression. And while the healthy brain shows normal activity, scans reveal reduced activity in a depressed brain. Scientists believe that the severe stress that people with depression go through disrupts the communication between brain cells. The brain has approximately 86 billion messengers called neurons. They talk to each other by firing chemical signals. And there's a thin line that separates the risks and benefits. Many scientists believe that several mental illnesses stem from miscommunication between neurons. For example, the feel-good chemical of dopamine gives you a sense of pleasure. It helps keep you interested and allows you to focus and plan. But too much of it can lead to addiction. Unstable amounts are linked to schizophrenia and ADHD. Low levels of the chemical serotonin are associated with depression and OCD. That's why it's used in a variety of antidepressants. But the reality is, things aren't quite this cut and dry. There is no single cause of mental illness. It could be a combination of life experiences, family history, or chemical imbalances in the brain. So understanding the circuitry may be the key to understanding mental health.
And there's so many people.
Sorry about that. Let me get like real quick. My bad, y'all. Y'all know I'm new to this thing, man. And that was an old video. That was something I watched in my downtime. But let me get back on task. So yeah, I think that video, the last video, did a good job of kind of giving a real quick insight into, why I'm saying it's not sometimes God ain't enough. And it's sometimes not only does it feel that way, it's the truth, right? Because as you can see, a lot of this stuff is physiological, man, and it's natural responses by your body that you can't control. And so when I say God wasn't enough for me, like, yeah, I was in prayer and I was exercising my faith and I was fasting and I was doing everything I could, man, to kind of get this thing to kick before I realized what was going on. think the one effective thing I did do in that space was one night I prayed that this is when everything changed for me. I was out front of my aunt's house. It was a full moon, man, and I was praying so hard, like, hey, Lord, like, if you ain't gonna change it, then like at least show me what I'm dealing with, and once you show me what I'm dealing with, then I just go ahead and take it from there, no matter how long it takes. But I said that, man, without realizing, without thinking. I lost a lot of faith at that point. And I said it without a space. I was just cussing that guy and fussing at him that night. I really didn't think he was going to do it or he was going to listen, man. But surprisingly, like a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks, I had my mental break. I ended up in a daggone psych ward. You know what I'm saying? So if I would have looked at that the wrong way, I could have went in there and went the rest of my life, man, with believing that I needed to be on medication or I needed some type of intense therapeutic program, or some type of lifetime of rehabilitation when, I kind of just put my head to the ground and try to figure out as much as I can about, I guess, psychology, how the brain works, how the body works, with nervous systems involved, and as far as the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system, and how that actually responds, to, I guess, what mental illness is, the symptoms of mental illness, it displays it. But a lot of that stuff, man, is carried with us, unconsciously. This is how our brain is supposed to react, and this is how it's how our nervous system is supposed to be impacted by this stuff, right? So a lot of people don't realize that the actual definition of mental illness, man, is a state of balance that must exist between people and the socio-cultural environment that surrounds them. And that plays a lot of different factors, anyway, from growing up in poverty to having rich parents and being raised by a maid or something like that, or having a parent that's in school all the time and working. And, it's a lot of different factors that plays a part in that, as you can see. And, within some of the symptoms of mental illness that kind of goes across the board, you kind of have the same ones. They include confusion, depression, social withdrawal, extreme feelings of pleasure, anger, excitement, fear, grief, and so on, man. And a lot of that stuff is like, it literally goes across the board from ADHD to schizophrenia. You know what I'm saying? Like, it plays on all of that. Some of the causes of mental illness, man, is and where I say it requires a lot more detail than God sometimes, because it really does. Like I said, a lot of the things you're dealing with, things like hormonal issues, people that have long-term substance abuse issues, prenatal brain damage, brain injuries, exposure to toxins. And think about that. Our diet is purely nothing but toxins that's affordable for the average person in this country, right? So, with that, you start dealing with infections and look at the healthcare system. You start and how many infections are prevalent just alone in the hospital. So let alone let your brain play with that as far as being open in society, out in a civilization. You got traumatic experiences. Like I said before, it's environmental. You got lifestyle habits and lack of access to education. You got a lot of different factors that play into what we call mental illness, right? And it's it kind of plays out in your moods, your thinking, your behaviors. It goes down into, you usually dealing with insecurities and hopelessness, rapid social changes, a high chance for violence, and high risk behaviors. It goes into a lot, man, and it impacts your family, social experience, social factors. It can go on, right? So with that just being the brain and having, with the brain and kind of carrying things the way it does with mental illness, that's not just where it starts, right? That's not where it stops, because then it goes into I'm giving y'all a lesson. That's the teacher side of me. I'm sorry. Apologize. Rock with me. I said I wanted to give more education on what mental illness was and break it down. I see you laughing over there. Bear with me though, folks. So now, so it doesn't just play a role. You laughing too hard over there, Ella. It's not just the brain, man, and how it's impacted, right? Because then it goes into your central nervous system, your peripheral nervous systems, and each of those systems beside you laughing too hard, Ella. You got your central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system, and a lot of the malfunction of that is basically your neurons misfiring or getting miscommunicated to, and that leads your body to do some crazy things sometimes, especially within the central nervous system. Now, when you start getting down to the peripheral nervous system, you start dealing with your blood pressure, your heart rate, and things like that. When you combine the two of those, where your central nervous system is now making you feel nervous and making you feel like you're in a space of feeling a place of panic, and then you have this the peripheral side of it playing with your blood pressure and your heart and your heart rate and things like that. And then you see the tornado of anxiety and how that works. And when you see people having like full-blown anxiety attacks, I had an anxiety attack the other day, man, and you know, I could tell, like, you know, my wife was trying to do the best she could at that moment, but I was trying to do the best that I can to not overreact because I really felt like I was dying. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you never had an anxiety attack, man, or a panic attack, there's nothing you can experience that will give you any deep or any insight to what that feels like other than a heart attack. It's just your chest tightening up. It feels like your heart is cramping or somebody's like grabbing your heart and things like that. You can't breathe. It feels like someone's sitting on your lungs, and it hurts and it's scary, and it can last for up to 30 minutes, right? So a lot of that stuff, when you deal with that, when you're in a state of fight or flight, like, yeah, there are some people with some strong faith out here that can drop to their knees and pray to God when they got a gun in their face or they're facing some life-threatening danger, man. But there's a lot of people out here, you don't know, they're going to scream, they're going to pee on themselves, they're going to run, they're going to fight, they're going to do whatever they can to get up out of there, man. So when you plan on all these different systems within your body, it's basically the transmissions, you know what I'm saying, like the electrical system, the engine and things like that. And once that engine starts malfunctioning, then everything in that car starts falling apart, right? So you got to do the same thing with your body, man. So I say all that because, like, God isn't enough. You know, a lot of things that you need to do comes on your part. God can't do that for you. God can't walk you to the store and make you grab nutritious food. God can't wake you up in the morning and make you go work out and do things like that. God can't make you let go of your past and the things that you've had, that you've been holding on to, your regrets for all these years. You know what I'm saying? So that stuff isn't anything God has control over. But the one part God, you know, meets you at is you put that work in, you put that foot forward toward the faith, you'll see, man, like, he ain't gonna meet you there. You see that man you see God is already 100 miles in front of you, already working. So, you know, that's the part about it. When you get through, when you put the work in and you get to a space where you legit try and you don't play with it, man, like you'll get to the other side of some type of consistency as far as your mental health. But that's enough of me talking tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and bring my guest on, Ella Williams. Viva la, what was it? What's your
50.
Viva la 50. What up, Ella? How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How's everything, man? How the fam?
You know, great. Your OG on here somewhere.
I was about to tell us.
I told her she
What
had
up,
to come as my friend.
You told her what?
She had to come
What
as
is
my
that?
friend, not my mom tonight. So she's on here somewhere.
I can't wait. Man, what you been up to, man? How's everything? How's life? How you been managing, your mental health and things like that? What's
Now
up,
you
Hope?
laughing too hard. You were saying I was laughing too hard. Now you
What up,
laughing
Hope?
too hard.
No, look, my bad.
Oh, there she go.
There she go right there. Look, I put it up there as soon as she popped up. What up, OG?
So it has been extremely up and down for me. One day I could be easy like Sunday morning. The next day, my sister will call me. I'm like, girl, I'm in a depression. Like, what's going on? So it's been up and down, but my mental health for me at this point in time is my priority because I know what it's like to be in that dark space.
Yeah.
And I never want to allow myself to get back there again. So I take my mental health very seriously. I analyze my own mental health. You would think like I'm already a psychiatrist. I'm not working on it, but I'm not there yet. But
okay. What you mean you working on? How you working on it?
I'm about to go back to school so I can, become a good old certified mental health counselor, and then I might just keep going. So, I can charge you to come and sit on my sofa.
Nah, I think that's dope. We need more therapists out there like you. We definitely do. Look, anybody that got the teachings of hope up underneath of you, yeah, you got some survival skills over there.
Exactly.
Yeah. But now, man, tell us a little bit about. What'd you say? Tell me
about me.
We got a delay. We got a super bad delay.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm your normal person who realized about 4 years ago what actual mental health issues were. I did what I had to do to correct it on my own. I went to therapy. I think I touched on that with you before. I went to therapy and I was like, this ain't it, because my therapist was all about the money.
Yeah,
So I basically had to dig into it myself, dive into it myself, and actually myself. Because I was spiraling. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. Like, it was a spiral.
What made you realize you were spiraling? Did you have any like
When
foresight?
you
Did you know
become a
it was
robot,
coming? When you become a
when
what?
you become a robot, and you wake up, you get in the shower, you get yourself together, get the kids together, go to work, you come home, cook. It's like all the schedule. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's no emotion behind it.
Okay.
It's just what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, life is not supposed to be this way. And I went through a terrible breakup, and that was kind of sort of the pinnacle. That was like, okay, this is what it is. If you don't fix yourself, you're not going to be here
Mm.
in 30 days, in 45 days. So
What you mean by
it was, yeah.
what you mean by that? Like, what you mean like you ain't gonna be here? You going to take a vacation? You going to
Oh,
you
no, I'm
going?
taking myself out. Like, I was tired. I was completely tired. I had several unbirthday attempts. None of those worked. The last unbirthday attempt I had, and it didn't work. I was like, okay, what's my purpose of being here? What is my point of you torturing me? Like you said, you had that full moon moment.
Yeah.
I had that get on my knees and scream and cuss out God moment.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of was like, girl, get up.
Yeah.
Get up. So that was my moment. That moment when it was like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? I'm tired. Like,
Yeah.
I've been going through
That
that
was,
too long by myself. And
you throw me way off with
I'm
that
tired.
unbirthday stuff, right? You know. every
I'm
time you
trying not
say,
to get like
no, I'm messing with you. That's a good way to explain it, though. I like that. It's a perfect way to explain it. And but you know
I
what's crazy?
mean, I'm trying not to get like
Ella, you ain't trying to go Ella.
Yeah. Don't.
Look. So look, now I'm messing with you, Ella. Like for real, that's heavy though, for real, right? Because it's heavy, man. Because like knowing you all these years back from neighbor care, from meeting you back there, like you ain't get those vibes. And I think that's around the time you said you was like at your max or going like getting hit heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You are.
I was. You and these brownies that you also going back to, like that was like a sign of depression. I realized that I've been depressed since I was 15 and some change. So it was more or less trying to figure out where to go with this depression. Let me go in the kitchen and figure out what I can do. That's why I'm like, now I cook with a ton of love. Like, I put my love in whatever I cook. And I'm like, if I'm in a depression, honey, I'm not cooking with love going in it. That's why I started trying to figure out how to bake or how to cook certain things or thinking outside the box. That was my outlet. Because why go to therapy? Why, that wasn't a Black people thing. That was something that other races did. They went to therapists, they went to psychiatrists, they did this, they did that, and Black people didn't do that. Black people dealt with it and they kept it pushing. So let me
Yeah.
figure out where to put all this pinned up anger and pinned up everything. So let me go in the kitchen. I mean, I did go to the club a little bit, but let me go in the kitchen and figure out something.
No, I can dig
But
it.
let me figure out something to do with it. So that's where the whole you getting your batch of brownies came from. Me being depressed.
They was for you to say you ain't had no love. They was love. You know, so I take them.
That was love. I put love into that.
Not like we joke around a lot, Ella, but like this like it's some serious stuff, right? Because then you go back to the space where like it had to start somewhere before that, though, right? Like so, you said you
Yeah.
realized you were depressed back when you were 15, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what sparked that off for you? What sparked the depression, and how did you realize like what did that look like? You know what I'm saying?
What sparked it was my dad died.
Your pops passed
When my
away.
dad died, I'm still to this day. I'm still to this day a daddy's girl. Um, when he died, my world crumbled, and I didn't feel like I had an outlet. I can go to my sisters and oh my God, my dad died. Their dad died too. Couldn't go
Yeah,
to my mom. That was somebody she spent the bulk of her life with. Like
yeah,
everybody's grieving at this. So that's where that depression set in at because I had no outlet. My outlet was smoking weed. Sorry, ma, smoking weed, um, and being ratchet. That's where I put my outlet at, being completely
yeah,
honest
yeah.
with you. But
Right.
um, that's where it started. My dad dying and me feeling like I didn't want to bother my siblings or my mom because
Yeah,
I understood their pain. We all was feeling that same loss, that same pain.
man,
So that's what triggered for me.
man. Was your dad sick?
No, he had that monkey on his back. He was a drug addict. So it was unexpected, even though you would think like you would always expect somebody who
Yeah, yeah,
are to perish. Like it was unexpected. Um, I will remember that day until the day, you know, I go up and confess all of my sins to God because it still replays in my brain like it just happened. I remember
yeah,
my
yeah,
mom picking me up from school. I remember the somber mood in the car with her and my sister, and I'm like, did I do something wrong? I'm in the back seat, like, what's going
yeah,
on? So
yeah.
no, like, yeah, it's a that was the start of a downhill spiral for me.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's tough, man. And how many? I know you. How many? Tell the folks how many sisters you have.
Okay. I got two older sisters. They my road dogs. Their birthdays was yesterday.
Happy
And then I
birthday.
have a younger sister. They older than me by like 30 years. I'm lying. 5 years. They're older than me by 5 years. And then I got a younger sister, 7 years younger.
That we, you talk about 2 kids.
We the fabulous four over here. We're the fabulous four. That's what we are.
You got fabulous four. Hey man, that's dope. No, but for real, Ella, man, like that, like so. I mean, that had to have been a lot, bro. Like that's a lot. Not had to be a lot, but then you go into this space where like how did it look? How did life look after that? 'Cause I know it had to look different. You know what I'm
Grim. It was grim. It was somber for years.
saying?
Like this wasn't no couple of days and after the funeral I was fine. No, this was years. Like I stopped going to school, the weed increased, the partying increased. Like me not I had no conscience. I was just God, you took him, you might as well take me.
Yeah,
That's how
man.
I looked at life. And I rebelled a lot. Um it was tragic. It
Man.
was absolutely tragic.
What do you remember a time like that's a lot of stuff to go through. Like how I'm laughing because in my mind, man, like I'm like, man, I know Hope ain't play that. I know the Hope I know ain't bust your tail on a regular basis.
Sorry,
But
Mom.
I was scared of Hope.
Everybody's scared of OG, okay? Like everybody. She got that Napoleon complex.
Hey, right, but I ain't no complex. That joint, shit. Hello, look. Hello, behind and run up on you quick. No, you did. Hope.
To this day, she will still run up on you. Everything's going on.
Nah, I Hope got some stories I can't ever repeat. Look, I just you mess with Hope, you on your own, dog. I ain't got nothing. Hope and my aunt.
I don't blame you.
And my aunt are the only two women that I'm afraid to fight. Like the only two people on this earth that I'm afraid to fight.
I don't blame you, but since you put your aunt there, I'm scared of your aunt too.
My bad, Erica. My bad. I'm a bad guy. I'm gonna leave it alone.
The default.
Like that, but nah, Ella, that's deep though, man. Like so, like as you got older, as you got older, right? Like how did that? Like how did you find how did you get your pull back? Like was it like love? Was it like outside of the club and like you know what I'm saying? Was it what made you like come out of that space or gave you kind of like a different energy during that time? Other than the clubbing and the cooking and that, like was it like dating stuff like that?
I was pretending. You know, you fake it till you make it, right? Yeah. So I was basically faking it till I made it. Like my son, me get pregnant and have mine, that saves me a lot. I always say that. But other than that, with him, like I was living from the outside looking in. I was living a normal existence. I was working, making money, happy, went out, etc., etc. From the outside looking in, but you have that dark cloud.
Yeah.
That's always following you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to process it. So I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't get that breakthrough until I'm gonna say 2017.
Okay.
2017. So this is recent still. 2017 is recent.
Right.
I just faked it until I made it.
Yeah. I asked that because I know like I've been like in some of the shadow work I was doing, I noticed that getting back to a space for me, like I really did like run to love towards my first love. You know what I'm saying? Like and I was stuck on that for a minute, for years. You know what I'm saying? So did you ever did you like and that place ended up being like an extreme trauma for me? You know what I'm saying? Knowing that it wasn't a good place to, you know, to kind of stay in for a minute. But in spite of how it made me feel, sometimes I was willing to rock with it. You know what I'm saying? So did you ever have any, you hear a lot of women say that they look for it, they admit to it. Men do it too, but women are more likely to admit to, you know, finding, you know, something to distract themselves.
I mean, I distracted myself quite often if we want to talk about that. However, I don't think it was a love bond. You know what I'm saying? Like my ex, I was with my ex for 8 years. And I will tell anybody who's willing to listen to me, it wasn't because of love, it was the financial stability.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't love the thing, but it is too much trauma there for me to say it was actually something I clung on to, because that was oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord. See how I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was you can't even explain what I went through, the emotional mental and verbal abuse that I sustained from being with him for all of that time, it was never worth it. Never worth it. Oh, I know. I was addicted to shoes. I had a shoe addiction. Shoes made me happy.
What type of shoes? Tennis shoes, heels? What were you into?
Hills. The
Yeah.
higher the hill, the closer the go.
You're a trip, man. So I think you and I talked about on the phone. It's something wrong with you, man. We gotta stay serious. We gotta stay serious.
Okay,
Like
okay.
on that space where you and I talked about, right, when you was when you pretty much reached out and said you want to talk about on the side of things where, like, let's talk about how I didn't get through with my spirituality and something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like what was that? What did that look like for you?
Okay, so like I said, I was in this abusive relationship, not physical at that point, but I was in an abusive relationship, and I was tired. When I say tired, on every aspect of life.
Okay.
Like, I know I got my kids, I know I got my mom, I wear all these titles, you know what I'm saying? Girlfriend, mom, sister, daughter, cousin, like I have all of these titles, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And I prayed, and I called on God, I called on Jesus, I called on Moses, I called anybody, Peter, okay? I called on everybody. Help me in this point in time, because what are y'all doing? Y'all put me, like, I'm here for a reason. Like, what are y'all doing? And me and my ex had got into something. We got into something, okay? And I lost it. When I say it was either jail or figure out something else. Like, those were my options. I don't look good in orange. Not a dirty orange, not a dirty gray. So let me figure out something. So that's what happened. I started this research. I started digging into my family history. I remember things that my mom told me about my family growing up. I remember me questioning the church. I remember me questioning everything. So it came to a point of, all right, God is real. No matter what you call him, God is real. But what else is there that's here to aid me back to where I'm supposed to be?
Okay.
So I did my family history. I started calling people, sliding the okie doke on them. Remember that time that you said, like, calling aunts and uncles? Remember that time you said somebody threw a jar in a river? What was that about? Like, that's what I started doing to figure out where I'm supposed to be. I started praying. And that's what, remember I talked to you about it. I'm like, everybody don't know how to pray. Everybody's prayers should not be the same. Like, everybody prays differently to get results. So there's more conversations with God. So my conversation with God was, all right, I done Hail Married, I done all of that. Nothing's working, God. How about I'm going to act like I'm on a phone call with God, and I'm like, listen, it's more to me than what you're telling me. So show me where I need to go.
Yeah.
And things just started appearing to me. I started asking my mom stuff. She started giving me information. I started asking uncles. And aunts and uncles I don't even bang with. I was reaching out to. Like, where did we come from? Who's my great-grandfather? Google. What's that, Ancestry.com? My mom had the tree thing let up, and so I'm looking up people. I got pictures, I got this, I got that. That's when I started learning about venerating your ancestors.
So give me a little bit about that. So basically what you're saying, right? And all this, like you were figuring out like who you were in a sense. All
Yeah.
right. And so figuring out who you were in a sense led you to finding out or figuring out, how your ancestors actually lived, what they were about, and how, what their faith strategy looked like, or how they actually moved, or like what did that bring you to?
Who owned churches? Who owned land? Like who owned churches? Who owned land? What did they grow? Like what did they do to survive? So the veneration of your ancestors are basically tapping into your roots. Like the doctor you had on the last show, he was stating like your grandfather was in your DNA. Everybody who comes before us is still in our DNA, still in your soul bones. That's what you say, soul bones. So all of that started coming into fruition with me. Like I would get signs. I would be listening to Pandora and a random ad will come on. Like there was the weirdest things that started happening around me. That was like, let me write that down. And I started getting into journaling, shadow work, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of broke that ice for me. Once I went to shadow work, journaling, it's not for the faint of heart. When you're trying to figure out who you are, you know what I'm saying, without the title.
Yeah.
And that's what pushed me.
My bad. What's like combining the two? I talk about a little bit about what shadow work did to me on social media last week. So like if you combining the two, like what number one, what's your shadow was your shadow work intense? And number two, did journaling, if you didn't do journaling, do you think you would have been able to successfully do shadow work?
So your second question, no, I would not have been able to successfully do shadow work. I did not get into journaling.
Okay.
It wouldn't be possible because with shadow work, you have to ask yourself those intense questions. You have to, you put a post up about your ego not too long ago. And remember, I was like, you have to kill your ego.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't know what to kill because a lot of people don't know what to kill in the ego because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, ego, what we know it or what we're taught ego is not that. You know what I'm saying? It's way deeper than that. And then you allow something to grow in you that kind of is the anchor of mental illness in that space, right? Because
exactly.
So going back, I think to the initial question, like what did what is shadow work? Like what type of emotions does shadow work bring up in you?
The worst of the worst. You want to talk about a dark space? That dark space I thought I was got darker. I didn't even think the space that I was in could get darker, but it did. And shadow work is basically going down to the absolute depths of your soul. It's going to the absolute depths of your brain. It's going from understanding to understanding. And like my mother and my sister kind of went through this process with me, and I know they was like, "That girl lost her mind." Because I'm like, listen, if you make these two herbs together, you can make a tea, and everything will go away. You know, everything started coming to me. God bless my family because they really rocked with me throughout this. But but the shadow work really, like, it will make you sit down and go, wait, I did mess this up for myself.
Yeah.
Wait.
Facts. Yeah.
I did overreact. Wait, like it makes you question every action that you've ever taken in life. And that's when it's like, but when you come out of that shadow work, you know what to give your energy to and what to walk away from.
Yeah.
You know, not saying your ego still won't pop in and be like, hey, miss me?
Yeah. Facts.
But that's shadow work helps tremendously, but it takes you to that's how I figured out when my depression started. That's how I
Yeah,
figured out everything that happened before and after that moment, like that
yeah,
pinnacle in my life. Like the shadow work, it takes you apart and puts you back together. And then that
yeah.
along with journaling is not as deep as people try to make it to be. Like, no, you can
It's
journal
not none
like
of the stuff,
today was
but none of the
fucked up.
stuff is
And
none of the stuff.
that's your
My bad,
journal
my bad.
entry. Like that's like, that's it. That's it. But as long as you like keeping track of your movement, of your
Yeah.
time,
Uh,
it it could be that one line. You put that date on it, you close that book, you that's it.
yeah, I got a lot of one liners in my journal. A lot of one liners.
Mine too. Mine like,
Sometimes you just gotta have that, you know what I'm saying, to leave it out there and express it. But no, man, like, so I think that's the part where, like, I think Clyde there, he talked about the shadow work, you know,
mhm,
on one of the earlier episodes, and that shadow work is what I was talking about last year when I said I didn't want to go back to that dark space, because up until that point, before I started talking about this stuff, I've been through therapy, I've sat in journal, you know what I'm saying, but then there's only so much you can journal about right now. Like, you'll figure out the stuff going on now. It's kind of like, okay, this ain't the issue. And then you start playing around and letting your brain go through thoughts that usually, and somehow it learned how to avoid on its own. You know what I'm saying? Like, a thought literally would start for me and the door gets slammed on it, boom, and then off to something else. You know what I'm saying? But then I noticed that it formed not only a habit for that, but it formed damn near a habit on everything I ain't like. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a space where even relationships, because if it got to a place where relationship was so I couldn't handle it, I would close the door on that and abruptly end it, or somebody I was talking to, it abruptly step off. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's when you start doing that shadow work, man. Like, I had my first real like bad anxiety attack that lasted for a minute, because it literally took me back to that every emotion, every feeling. And I was a kid. A lot of the stuff. I was a kid. I couldn't have been no more than like 7 or 8. Like, I don't even remember. I was young. So to have been able to block all that stuff out, at least in that perspective, for years, at least I thought I did, because how I felt about those situations, that fear I felt back then also played out into me now, right? I never understood that.
mhm,
Overreacting. You know what I'm saying? Like, going from 0 to 100 and things like that, and losing your temper, you know, and not being able to get them back and seeing black or seeing red. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made me
mhm,
understand, because that was like that energy that I've seen. I think my mother was getting into, like, she was in a domestic situation where it wasn't. It was a family member, but it wasn't nothing out of the ordinary. I don't think. At least what I remember. It was traumatic for me, but I can't really say exactly like what was going on in that space. But it was that feeling of wanting at being a kid and wanting to help your mother, and knowing, like, it don't matter how much energy I put into this right now, I ain't gonna be able to take this dude. You know what I'm saying? But then as a man, you have that, right? So then when you face with the conflict and you're about to get in a fight and things like that, that's that explosiveness that most guys get, because a lot of time it's from built up rage and things like that. A lot of times
mhm.
people end up doing things they never thought they could do just in that space. You know what I'm saying? So that shadow work ended up bringing back, like, it brought back a lot of memories that I was afraid of. It made me understand, like, why I am the way I am, why I react to certain things the way I do. Like, certain trauma responses that I thought were natural, and I'm like, damn, no, I did do that when this thing happened. Well, I did feel like that in a particular situation, but
Right.
it's it's crazy, man, because like I said, my brain closed the door on that memory for like 2 decades, plus. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's just interesting how powerful your brain is. You know what I'm saying? But it's once you got to that space of doing the shadow work, like, what was after that for you? Like, is that when you started to kind of grasp onto your spirituality again, or the spirituality again, or how
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Um, the shadow work put me into the next stage, which was learning how to love myself again.
Facts.
Um, when you're depressed, when you're going through anxiety, when you're on, walking on eggshells all the time, when you're in that dark state,
Mm-hmm.
you stop loving you.
Yeah.
You stop, like, you love everything around you, but
Mm-hmm.
you, because you don't see the worth in yourself. So that shadow work put me to a space where I seen my worth. I seen what I can do. I seen my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I seen who I am without the title.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, girl, run. Run with that.
Yeah.
Run with that and don't look back. But don't forget, you're going to have to do the shadow work again.
Facts.
Because healing, you have to keep healing, because if you don't keep going through that evolution, you're not healing correctly. Like, you
Facts.
above, you have to heal. You above, you have to heal. So you gotta go back to that shadow work. You gotta
Yeah.
go back to fasting. You gotta go back to everything. And like, what is that holiday people fast on every year? Catholics fast on Lent.
Lent. I was about to say, there we go.
I do Lent every year. I'm not Catholic at all, but I do Lent every year because that's my way of fasting. That's my way of pacing myself.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll complete sacrifice. Now I do go through things and I do prep for fasting periods. Like, I pray for certain things. I'm crazy enough where most of the time when I do know I'm about to go into a fast, I pray for ego death. I pray that my ego gets taken down a couple of notches because I'm human.
Yeah.
Um,
What's
so
your ego look like, real quick though? I'm sorry. Like, what's your ego look like? Give an explanation. Like, because like we said earlier, like, it's I can tell what mine is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm trying to get away from my like, what is it? So is it that level of is it that confidence? Is it that what do they call it, man? Is it confidence? What is it? Is it overconfident? Is it snooty, like, or is it like depressed, or is it telling you ain't nothing and all that stuff? Like, what does that your ego look
my ego, is I know everything. Like, it's nothing you can't tell me that I don't already know. My ego is cockiness. My ego is I'm really that girl. Like, do you know where I come from? Do you know who my mom is? Do you know who my dad is? Like, don't play with me. That's my ego.
Yeah.
My ego is basically summed up. Anything you can do, I can do better. And it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. It is horrible.
Yeah.
It would make me look like I'm snooty or stuck up or something, and I'm not.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you said, what about what? Oh, no. If I don't know it, honey, I'm gonna figure it out. That's my ego. And sometimes I have to, like, sit back and let other people figure stuff out for themselves. I don't need to navigate anybody else's life while I'm still navigating my own.
Facts.
So my ego it's embarrassing. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, my ego is embarrassing.
How you calm it?
Ooh, Jesus.
Only through prayer. Like,
It's a lot of self-talk, a lot of girl, shut up. It's a lot of that's not your business. Like, oh, girl, stop. So that's how I calm my ego. And I come home and I write about it. Okay, so Susie came to me today and I think Susie should do this, but Susie's not going to do that because Susie's not going to listen to me. But I've already been through that, and I
no, I can I ask because I think it's always interesting, right, man? Because like you do hear a lot of people talk about the ego in a sense, and that realm, right? But then the ego, like I've never been like an egotistical dude in that space, right? I've always been a pretty humble guy, but
right.
but my ego was negative. My ego was showed up in my low self-esteem. My ego showed up in the lack of confidence that I've had, after getting molested and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like my ego didn't have any like it was just it was a different when I understood the ego wasn't just cockiness. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And that my ego was actually what fueled my like the shadow work allowed me to see that my ego is actually what fueled my depression and what fueled my suicidal ideations, because that's the thing that was telling me that I wasn't shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then when you hear it out in the world and from people you love, and then you hear people you love say, "I hope you die," and then you kind of get certain attention as a kid, like that ego gets super loud, right? And then, like I said before, like I never understood, like I thought something was wrong with me because I like when people would say I was attractive, I never believed the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone gave me like a praise, even to this day, my friends tell me like, "Hey, bro, like you need to take it's okay to take a praise or take a gift or something like that." You know what I'm saying? But I still struggle with that to this day, and it's crazy because I got an award on Sunday from a magazine, and I've been struggling to put the post up because I've been battling. Like I'm trying to appreciate that, man. Like I've been battling, trying. I've been battling myself, saying like, no, this is something worth putting up. This is the content. Like, really, but it's weird how that works. You know what I'm saying?
I get it, but you know what? That makes it because I'm not the type of person who likes accolades at all. Like I can help somebody, and then I'll go back to the corner. Like put me in that corner, so none of the attention comes on me. So what you're saying right now makes a ton of sense, and I need to write that down. But I don't like accolades. I don't want to be on the front page. Like I don't want to take your picture. Like I don't none of it. Like and that's weird because when I was younger and I didn't have a conscience, I was the first person in the picture. I was flicking it up.
Right.
These days, like I'm good.
Yeah, that's facts. So
Don't do that. But that makes a lot of sense that that's part of your ego.
yeah.
But see how you don't trigger
Well,
things in my brain.
no, man, because it was always interesting, like, because when just digging deeper into it and doing it, like just digging deeper. I dig way too deep into stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it gets you in, and you find out different things, and especially when like in the spiritual realm, what ego means, or what the other generations of civilizations spoke on about the ego and things like that. You combine it with our stuff, you kind of like, oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But we talked about a little bit how what how it started. We talked about a little bit of how you handle it through and try to touch on a little bit of like basically like summed up. How do you cope now? And matter of fact, in the first one, before I go there, what are your triggers now?
Anything happening to someone I love.
Gotcha. Um, anything else on that one? Any other triggers?
Anything happening to someone I love.
That's it. Times 3. I got you.
That's it. That's my trigger. I'm on go mode.
So nobody can do anything to you to piss you off, to trigger you to.
Now you got the little simple stuff that I might get ticked off about for like 5 minutes, like stuff at work because they be tripping, and then I'll call my mom, and she'd be like, "Girl, they tripping." I'm like, "I know," and then I'm over it. But
that long term stuff, the stuff that puts you into depression and that makes the mental fight is
anything happening to anybody that I love, it's still a trigger for me, and that's the hill I'm willing to die on because when I love hard.
Yeah.
Even though I went through so much, love is my love. So anybody that I absolutely love and adore, if anything happens, it triggers the hell out of it.
Yeah, I can dig that. I can definitely understand that. When you are triggered like that, like how do you cope? How do you pull yourself out? Like
That's a tough one. Um, I go numb. Now you spoke on this before about the kids in the city going numb.
Mm.
Um, how it's a bad thing. Going numb sometimes for me, most of the time for me, is the perfect thing that could happen.
Mm.
If I go numb and I suppress my emotions, shout out to shadow work because that helped me
Yeah, you
learn
had no.
how to. It helped me learn how to suppress my emotions in a positive aspect.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um, I go numb and I evaluate the situation. Like I called my sisters last month, or I don't know. So the vid happened and time started running together for me. So it's either last month or a couple of weeks ago or yesterday. I called my sisters and I was like, "Y'all, I'm depression." Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
Nah,
in depression. And that's a big step for me to be able to articulate. I'm depressed. I'm in this mode. And my sisters, they went into go mode with me, like, okay, so how we gonna fix this?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, we don't. The thing is that I know where I'm at right.
yeah,
So as
yeah.
long as I know where I'm at and I'm not in this space of darkness, of this space of confusion, in this space of pandemonium,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna work my way out. So I walk, I meditate, I pray about it, I
Mhm.
journal about it. Like I have a list of things that I do.
Now
And
keep on.
meditation.
Talk about him. Talk about him.
So, my meditation is not your normal, none of your whole cure. It's not that. My meditation is like putting on, is mommy still here? Oh, she is still
Yeah,
here.
she there.
Okay, so mommy's still here. Like, um, even when I was 17, 18, mommy knew when I was ticked off. Um, when I closed my bedroom door and that intro of DMX started playing. That's still my meditation. My meditation is putting music on and having me a whole entire dance session. And when I say my mind clear,
Yeah, yeah. But I'm glad you
I'm,
said that though. I'm glad you said that because a lot of people, I talk a lot too about coping your way, right? And you read these magazines and you hear the stuff like coping for me wasn't listening to some nature music at first and all that other stuff. It was allowed me to get to a comfortable space and kind of hear the music that was playing at that moment rather than just feeling the beat. You know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
like that's funny that's it's
Yeah, that's my thing. Like I put my music on and I vibe out. Like I be in here having a whole dance session. I be in the car having a whole dance session. By the time I come out of that, whatever space I am drenched in tears, like just in tears, like it releases whatever I'm holding on to, and I can figure out a plan. Like that's the whole thing. You have to come up with some sort of plan. For me,
yeah.
I have to have some sort of plan. Like I'm gonna allow myself this amount of time to figure this out. After this, like I can't dwell on it because I'm keeping myself in that space.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm keeping that, and I can't keep myself in that space no more because I spent too much time there already.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Well, what's your favorite way to cope? I didn't ask you that, right? What's your favorite coping way? The dancing, DMX.
Dancing to DMX, like that's my favorite.
I got you. I can dig it. I can dig it. Look,
My favorite. That's my
we coming
favorite.
up on like an hour and 13 minutes.
Oh Jesus!
It's been a minute, right? So I try to give the space of the show actually a grace of an hour and 30 minutes. But I like that I usually ask some questions towards the end of the show, right? The what do you the last one for this one? Like, what do you do if it don't work? If your coping doesn't work? Like, you ever had that experience yet?
Yes, I cry. I go on walks. I journal more. I ground. Even because I
You do
went through
what? Say it again. You do what? Say it again.
grounding, grounding,
Wait, say it
right?
again. Say what?
Grounding,
What does that look like, Ella? What is grounding?
grounding. Why are you playing with me like this tonight?
Nah, seriously though, because a lot of people don't know what grounding is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but more people start to find out. My mom came up to me the other day and she was talking to me about it. I thought it was dope that my mother's generation is open to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like,
So grounding is basically your way of connecting to Mother Earth and clearing out the negativity within yourself. Now, something happened around Christmas time, so it's cold. You know, we live in Maryland. It's cold outside. Nothing was working for me. Nothing. Okay. Christmas wasn't working. Partying wasn't working. Having myself a couple of shots of tequila wasn't working. I could not journal. I could not do shadow work. I could not cry. I couldn't do nothing.
yeah.
I took myself to a park. I took my shoes off. I went into that grass and I grounded. I connected myself to the earth. I cleared out that negativity within me. Like that's what grounding is. Like, and believe it or not, I'm not crazy. Somebody might watch this 10 years from now and be like, that girl crazy. It's cold outside. When you're grounding, you put yourself in such a mental space where you don't feel that cold, but you feel that cleansing.
That's true.
You know,
But
you
people don't
don't
realize that's a real thing though, because if you take like a little, what are those little magnetic electro readers, you plug them to the ground. If you take it and put a probe into the ground, you put your foot next to it, you will see that scale jumps and it maintains as long as your foot is in that area, right? The moment you move it, it goes away. But it's a real science behind that, man. And I think that's the part where that's why I wanted you to talk about it, because you don't hear. I haven't heard anybody. I haven't had anyone on here yet to say anything about grounding. But it's such a big coping. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a big way to cope. I'm trying to get better with cutting people off. I didn't mean to cut you off when I asked that, but
you're fine. But it's a thing. Even in like you take your kids to the park, your kids out there wilding out, take your shoes off while you're sitting on that grass and just put your feet on that grass. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you have to move with intention. That's a big part I left out.
Yeah, that's
my
big.
bad.
No, you good. Go ahead.
Everything has to be intentional. You know what I'm saying? Your shadow work, intentional. Your journaling, intentional. Like anything to get you in a proper mental space so you can go out into this world, you have to be intentional with it.
Intentional, you mean like what? That involve like a level of accountability?
Yes, of course.
So basically talking about, okay, yeah, this situation, it was effed up, but this is my role in this, and this is how I could have avoided it. So
exactly.
I agree. In order to do any of that, you have to be intentional about it, right? But then the reward is it's like an overflow, because the knowledge that you gain, the discernment that you've gained, the wisdom, you know what I'm saying? Like that comes with some things that you can't even find in books, man, where you start to if you don't look at it so much of a weight and more of like, okay, this was a painful ass gift, but you know what I'm saying? Like, at least I know not to make that mistake head on. At least I know not to let my kids go out in this space and not think that nothing will happen or it could happen as quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like, so no, that's a good point. Like you said, the intentional shadow work, the intentional health work overall, period. You know what I'm saying? Because now a lot of people talk about that good game of, and I'm in that space now where I'm kind of dreading like I need this last piece to come together for my mental health. And that's the physical side of it. That's the working out and things like that, especially with the injuries that I've had, right? But that's what I'm dreading. But that's the last piece of my giant, like that I need to get over in order to be like, okay, I'm banging it. And that's supposed to start on the 3rd of July. So we're gonna see what that look like, man. But so we talked about a little bit about your valley, right? Like coming through that valley, have you reached your mountain and started to make that trek up yet? Are you halfway up the top of your mountain? You feel like you're at the top of your mountain? You feel like, if not, what does that look like for you? What does the top of your mountain look like, and what would you scream to your valley?
I'm not at the top of my mountain yet. I'm gonna say I'm like midway. But when I get to the top of that mountain, I'm gonna scream that freedom is obtainable.
Yeah.
And because it is, and that's what everybody is fighting for. That's why everybody's so angry. You feel mentally imprisoned.
I don't
So
believe it. I don't believe that's all you would say. I think it would start off like a FUMF, like knowing you. Exactly. And then go into something
using
spiritual.
compound words. Freedom is attainable. You know, open up a bottle of Don Julio and just douse it. It's all
I'm messing with you, Alan.
that's what I'm
Nah,
doing.
that's funny, man. Nah, but nah,
That's
hey, man, that's what does the top of your mountain look like?
the top of my mountain. I don't even know if I can describe it.
Is it a feeling? Is it anything that looks like anything? Or is it
It
just
is
a
the
feeling?
feeling of joy.
Mm,
It's not happiness. It's not peace. It's not none of that. It is joy. It is
that's
pure,
real.
unfiltered joy. That's what the top of my mountain is.
Nah, that's real, man. That's real. That's,
Mhm.
I'm a little afraid to ask you this last question, but like
Oh my
when it
God.
comes to society, like what's one thing that make you like that got you worried, like got you a little worried? Today's
Oh, that's easy. This AI stuff, this artificial intelligence stuff freaks me out.
why I figure out.
Because first of all, did you see that robot they put on the news today? Like he just walking like a normal person. Like, how am I supposed to know if this is a person or this is a robot? Like, I don't like that. I
Yeah,
don't like that.
look, I can dig it, right? And I felt the same way, right? But what about what if that fear you feel is on purpose, right? What if that's your
Mhm.
way of what if that's something at works to not let you buy into an asset that could possibly change your life. So if they want to get ahead of it first, you know what I'm saying? And then
Exactly.
because I'm gonna say what my perspective changed on AI a lot, right? Because watching my wife just use a little bit in her business and seeing
Mhm.
like what it alleviates the stressor than using a little bit and playing around with it on my phone and seeing like, let me see if I can put my thoughts into what it would sound like in this person to come out. It's not just that way, right? It helps you out in so many different ways of the number one thing in business is automation, right?
It's
So
freaky.
would you say
It is freaky.
it's freaky, right? But
It is freaky.
it's freaky. But if we go into the mindset that we usually do as a as a culture and stay away from it because it scares us, then we could be inflicting a lack of education or a lack of understanding of our resources for generations to come because they're gonna live with this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So if we get into if we I understand where the fear part coming at, right? Because yeah, you do see iRobot, you do see all the other stuff and things like that where that
Mhm.
turns on you. But it's what's happening is if you look around, AI is taking all over from if you don't have AI, how you going to sustain your own business without depending on the government in a few years? You know
That
what I'm saying?
is absolutely true. But still,
You don't
nonetheless,
like it?
no, I
I'm
don't
with
like
you.
it. I
I'm
don't
with
like
you.
I
I'm
don't
with
like
you.
it. I don't
But
want to be able to tell something one sentence and it gives me 30 paragraphs because of that one sentence I said. Like, first of all, get out of my brain because, yeah, that's exactly what I would have said. Like, what are you doing?
but you know the freaky part about that though, man, is that it realized that we always 100 years behind technology and what the government had access to. So I was watching a video earlier. They were talking about they only release what they can make a profit off of, right? They can make money off.
Exactly.
There's been a billion other AI systems out here, other AI technologies out here, but they couldn't figure out how to put it into a space to capitalize off of it. Now
Mhm.
you're in a space where you release these popular AI apps and things like that, where it's they're doing things like when you can say, hey, I want to write a book in my way, how I would write it about basketball. You can write a full-fledged book and have it printed out and it's done for you. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that
And you
that
on the bestseller list.
you're on the bestseller list. But then on the other side of it, right? You think about it from the robots and the weapons and things like that, and the robots that'll be helping out around the house. But what about from the aspect of surgeons, the medical field? Because I'm telling you right now, there ain't gonna be enough doctors in 30 years for up to 40 years to make sure we going, because it's gonna be a generation that's kind of skipped over for a minute. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
So you going? So imagine you got. I know like people can change, right? But I'm real nervous with some of the doctors we have now.
Right. And could you imagine if you take the robot off, like, and they you like comment and they be like, oh, you just gonna get on my nerves, and then they tell their homeboys, like, come on, you screwed.
Yeah.
You screwed. Like, come on.
Nah, I said something wrong with you, man.
I'm serious. Like, come on. That robot gonna be like beep bop boop beep to his homeboys, and that's it. It's over. You won't be able to go to the grocery store.
Robots ain't gonna move how you move, Ella. They ain't gonna move how you.
Listen, put me in the country somewhere on the house with some land where I can sit out and drink lemonade.
And some cattle, some livestock.
I don't want no robot.
Nah, I'm with you. I feel you, man. Nah, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring it to it. And we at 125. I appreciate you for hopping on. Thank you for being so transparent.
Thank you.
Or anything you feel like you want to get out there?
Vera says, stay safe.
What up, Vera? No, thank you. Nah, man. That's your daughter. It sounds like hope. That's a hope response. Exactly. No, but look, it's funny, right? A lot like your mother. Like I know people in the chat probably caught the last name, right? It's funny because like before all this Henrietta Lacks stuff came out, like years before, I was like 19, 21 when Hope was talking to me about how Hopkins was taking like so. And when the book actually came out, I was like. I always wanted to call Hope and say, hey, Hope, thanks. Like, because you put me on to a wealth of knowledge that I had no idea about. And this is actually a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I thought that was always dope to have that, like, hey, bro, like, I know somebody that knows somebody.
You know somebody who knows somebody who knows some things. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, man. But no, Alan, thanks again, man. Look, I thank you for being a transparent. Thank you for, especially for the, for I guess, my mission to kick back out on this stigma and bring more awareness to, mental health, mental illness, to show like, man, there ain't no textbook answer on this shit.
No, it's not.
You can have some stuff that ain't in the books. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's I thank you for being a part of that. And I'm gonna continue to bring awareness on. I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's coming together so easily, man. So I thank you for your assistance in that, man. But you have a good night. I thank my guests for coming on and checking it out. I'm gonna go ahead and head out on this one. Y'all have a great night, folks.
Night.
Thanks, Hope. You awesome.